Hello, my name is Mathias and welcome to the FPL Scope. Today we're going to go through the Weekly Wildcard Draft for Game Week 3. And if you don't know, the Weekly Wildcard Draft is something that I do every week, which figures by the name. And it is a wildcard draft, which means that I'm going to pick the best potential squad to have in Fantasy Premier League going forward in the next 4 to 5 game weeks and beyond, to be honest. But yes, let's just go ahead. This is pretty simple rules. I draft this like an NBA or NFL draft where I go with the first pick is the most essential player to own and the 15th pick is the player that I'm the most unsure about or the most likely to get dropped for next week. So you'll see as we go along how this whole thing works. So yeah, let's just go with the first pick, and that is the obvious one always. Erling Haaland, still the best pick, especially with those fixtures. Just like Sheffield United away, Fulham at home, West Ham away, and Nottingham Forest at home. You can't ask for 4 better fixtures than that, pretty much. So yeah, Haaland, auto-captain every single week, even though he blanked against Newcastle, which wasn't that surprising, to be honest, for me, because I always said that he would have a tough time against Newcastle, and I had more faith in Salah as captain. That gave me 3 points, so yeah, a little bit of an advantage for me there, but still, from now on, I think Haaland is the auto-captain, and he is automatically in this team as well, as long as he's staying fit. And he is currently fit, so get him in your team if you don't have him. If you're part of the 9% that don't have him already, I don't know what to tell you, really. Moving on, we have Estupiñán as the second pick this week. I pretty much think he is the second most essential player, just behind Haaland, because he plays so offensively. He gets attacking returns pretty much every single time around. He can get clean sheets as well, on top of that, potentially, and bonus points, yeah, goals, assists, bonus points, clean sheets, anything you can ask for. A super attacking minded fullback, plays for one of the best teams in the league, the current number 1 team in the league, first place team in the league in Brighton, who are just building every single season now, it seems, to become a better side, and especially under De Zerbi, they've looked fantastic, and Estupiñán is one of the most important players. He's completely nailed. I know they have been linked with some left backs, but they are mostly like talents that are more for the future. Estupiñán is pretty secure as the left back there, and he's just going to keep providing the points as he has done so far in FPL. There's a reason why he was the most popular player or popular defender in the Fantasy Premier League from the start of the season, and he's only gaining value now, gaining an even bigger following, because he's one of those essential players to have in FPL, basically. So yeah, I've moved him up to number 2 pick, because there are some players that have dropped a little bit because of some performances. But yeah, moving on to number 3, we have Bryan Mbeumo. Yet again, another player who has been fantastic this season in Game Week 1 and Game Week 2. Got 16 big points in Game Week 2, another penalty scored. But he still had really good underlying numbers, even without the penalties. He's had, I think, the second best non-penalty expected goal involvement in the whole game so far. Only behind João, his teammate. So Mbeumo, just a surefire pick for 6.5 in midfield. Really good. As you can see from his fixtures, Crystal Palace at home, Bournemouth at home, Newcastle away, which is kind of tough, but then Everton at home. 3 out of the next 4 are pretty easy home matches. So Mbeumo, if he's not in your team already, I think you should probably try to get him already, because yeah, he was in my team throughout the whole preseason. He was like really popular at the start of FPL. Right after FPL launched, he was like one of the most popular players, but then like some like subpar-ish performances in preseason, and then that little triangle, the yellow triangle next to his name, because he was taken off as a precaution in one of the final preseason games, meant that his ownership dropped down to pretty low levels, like almost 10%, which is kind of crazy, because Mbeumo is, without Tony, he is the main man for Brentford, and he keeps playing 90 minutes. He plays as a striker for some times of the game as well. The first match he played as a striker just outright the whole game. Second game, he played as a striker after Wissa got subbed off, and that's when he scored the final goal as well. Just a simple tap-in, along with his penalty. So, yeah, Mbeumo, just a surefire pick. He's been just money ever since Tony has been out of the team. Both last season and this season, he just keeps scoring. So yeah, he is the best midfielder to own currently, in my opinion. Moving on to the second best defender to have currently is Ben Chilwell. I still have him pretty high on this list. He has dropped down a couple spots, or 1 spot even, from last time, because he was obviously subbed off right around the hour mark against West Ham. So he barely got past the hour, and they conceded 3 goals as well against West Ham. So Chelsea defensively, not so sure about them. I do have 2 defensive Chelsea players though, but that's because of the pricing. Pretty much that's why I have 2 Chelsea players, as you'll see pretty far behind or later up in this draft. But Chilwell, you don't really have him for his defensive returns. You have him for his attacking returns. And once again, against West Ham as well, he played super offensively. Even at a header in the box, he gets so many touches in the opposition half and in the opposition third as well, or in the final third, I guess. So yeah, he's still a really good pick, and I still think he's going to play most matches. It's going to be some like rotation, some matches where he gets subbed off early because they have some fixtures and he has been struggling with injuries in prior seasons. But Chilwell is still one of those players that you really should have or really should get in your team if you don't have him already, especially those of you with Gabriel still. He is not starting for Arsenal anymore, and Chilwell is just someone you need to get, I guess, if you don't have him already or Estupiñán already. Now we have another new player, and that is Phil Foden. He looked electric for Man City in their game against Newcastle. He created 7 chances against a really good defensive side in Newcastle. Seems like he's found his role. Seems like he's found his form at the right time. De Bruyne is injured. Gundogan is gone. Morris is gone. All that stuff that I mentioned pretty much every week. So there's going to be a lot more playing time for the City assets going forward. And Foden looks like the second best City asset behind Haaland. He creates so many chances, and as you can see from the fixtures, like I said with Haaland, they have the best fixtures imaginable. So if you have a nailed City attacker for 7.5 as well, which is Foden's price, with those fixtures, it's a no-brainer really. So yeah, Foden is in the squad. And along with him, well, not actually, before we get to his teammate, we get to another striker that I have slightly ahead of the third City attacker that I have in the squad. And the 6th pick of this draft is another new player, and that is Nick Jackson. Now, Nick Jackson has not scored much points at all so far in FPL. He has 2 points in 2 game weeks, which is pretty bad. But looking at his underlying numbers, it's really good. And considering Chelsea have played 2 of their tougher matches now and are now going into a really nice schedule with Luton at home, Nottingham Forest at home in the next 2 fixtures, then Bournemouth away and then Aston Villa at home in the next 4. I think Nick Jackson, it's only a matter of time before he banks in the goals, and he is probably the striker that I'm looking to get personally. But he is also, if you want to get a striker replacement for example, João Pedro, then number 7 pick Alvarez as well. Really close with Nicholas Jackson. I think both these players are kind of even when it comes to value. So I have Nick Jackson slightly ahead of Alvarez currently, but that might change across the week. So I'm still not sure if I'm going to get Jackson or Alvarez when I most likely get in a new striker for João Pedro this week. But Alvarez, again, scored a really nice goal against Newcastle. He doesn't play as an out-and-out striker. He plays in sort of that number 10-ish role for Man City, but he's really good at that as well. He's just a really good player in general, and he gets FPL points. He plays for City, like I said. The fixtures that they have, I just feel like tripling up on their attack is the best option, really, if you can afford, or if you have the means of getting 3 City attackers currently. I think you should go for it with Foden and Alvarez on top of Haaland. So yeah, the City attack, going all out on them with the super easy fixtures. I can see a lot of like 5-0, 6-0 type of games coming up. So yeah, it makes sense to go for as many City attackers as you can, because City defenders are most likely just going to stay with like the 6 points, but you can get 20-point hauls from Foden, Alvarez, or Haaland really in any given game week in the next few game weeks now. They even have Wolverhampton, I think, in the 5th fixture after the Nottingham Forest fixture, which is crazy. So now is the time to have City assets in your team, and Foden and Alvarez are definitely on my watch list. I don't have them in my current team personally, but that might change pretty soon. Next up, we have Mohamed Salah. I'm still sticking with Salah. He has gotten point returns in both of his matches so far, and I think he's been kind of unlucky not to get more. I know some people are trying to say, because a lot of people haven't picked him in FPL and are looking for reasons still not to own him and still thinking that he's not the best pick and that they made the right decision. And to be frank, maybe I'm doing the opposite. Maybe I'm trying to justify the fact that I have him and try to justify why I'm probably going to keep him still. Maybe it's biased from my side, but I think Salah, if you just watch him play, there's a reason why he gets so many goals every single season. If you watch it like the eye test, because it doesn't show up in the stats, because he doesn't really get the ball all the time when he gets in these really good positions. And it's only been 2 game weeks, so underlying stats don't really mean much from these 2 games anyway. But Salah is always in those little spots where the ball might fall. He's always really close to where like the action happens, and the ball hasn't quite fallen for him yet in the first 2 fixtures. He did get the penalty and scored the rebound from the penalty after missing it. And he did get the assist, a beautiful assist in Game Week 1 as well. Had the disallowed goal in Game Week 1. But Salah, he is an FPL guarantee. Like, he's going to get you points. So I've seen a lot of people have like 2 million, 3 million in the bank still, and they don't really know what to do with the money. And people are now downgrading Watkins, they're downgrading Fernandes, they're downgrading Rashford, getting even more money in the bank, and they're not buying Trent Alexander-Arnold, they're not buying De Bruyne, who's the only other like expensive player now that Kane is gone. So that leaves a lot of money for Salah. So I think Salah is still a really viable option. He plays Newcastle away in this next game week, which is not ideal. But after that, Aston Villa at home, Aston Villa have shown that they can concede quite a lot of goals this season. They showed that against Newcastle, at least, conceding 5 goals. And Everton as well had a couple chances at the start of the game. But yeah, Aston Villa are good. But defensively, I think Aston Villa against Liverpool could be one of those like 4-3, 3-2 type of games. It's going to be really fun to watch. And then they have Wolverhampton away, and then they have West Ham at home. And Salah always scores against West Ham. Like, that's a guarantee pretty much every time. So I think Salah, keeping him for the next 4 game weeks, seems like a good idea. And then from game week 9 onwards, maybe you can look into someone else. But I still think Salah is good value. And yeah, maybe I'll just die on this hill eventually. But hopefully for me, Salah turns even better than he has been so far. But 10 points from 2 games, not the worst. But he can do even better. We know from Salah that he has that in him. Next up, we have Bukayo Saka. He has dropped down all the way from number 2 until number 9. I just finished watching Arsenal against Crystal Palace, and he looked lively. He looked like decent, but the one crucial thing about the game against Crystal Palace is that we got to see who is the Arsenal penalty taker, and it is not Saka anymore. He took a penalty in preseason and missed. And in the Community Shield, and I noted this after this happened, he took the second penalty because the first penalty taker was Martin Ødegaard, who took the first penalty. And now Ødegaard seems to be the new penalty taker for Arsenal because he took the penalty that Nketiah won for Arsenal. So yeah, with Saka off penalties, he loses quite a lot of value, as we've seen with Mbeumo, who has scored 2 penalties so far. Penalties are really valuable. Salah as well got a penalty and got a goal from the rebound from it. So yeah, penalties are really valuable. So Saka, not dropping out of the team entirely, but he's kind of flirting with it. Especially the performance against Crystal Palace wasn't the best either. But seeing as they have Fulham at home in the next match, you kind of have to have an Arsenal attacking asset, I feel like. Because that game, Arsenal usually destroy Fulham as well. So I think you need to have Saka. You should keep Saka in your team. You most likely have Saka already, and I think you should keep him, even though Arsenal haven't looked the best in the first 2 game weeks. But yeah, the Fulham match at least is somewhere we can see if Saka is still worth having. And if he doesn't perform against Fulham, and then he has Man United and Everton away and Spurs, kind of decent fixtures, but not like incredible, maybe you could look to sell him potentially. But for now, you keep him. I think he is still a valuable player, even though he's not on penalties anymore. Maybe Ødegaard is more valuable now with him having penalties, but yeah, we don't really know. Saka's still like the star for Arsenal, but yeah, Ødegaard on penalties, maybe he's the one to consider as well. But for now, keeping Saka, who is like the more safe, I guess, option for Arsenal. Next up, we have Destiny Udogie. He is a really good defender. He is also a really good attacking defender for Spurs. He has been in the opposition half quite a lot, playing under Ange Postecoglou, and I think he's going to be even better now that the fixtures are getting better and better for Spurs. They're going to be more offensively minded, even more than usual under Postecoglou. Now in the next 3 matches, they have Bournemouth away, Burnley away, and Sheffield United at home in the next 3. And in those matches, I think Udogie could be a really good player for you if you don't have him already in your squad. So anyone looking to downgrade someone like Gabriel, for example, or Stones if you have him, or someone like that, I think Udogie is probably the best 4.5 option currently, but he's not that far ahead of the second best 4.5 option in my eyes, and that is Rico Henry. Now, Rico Henry, he was number 11 pick last week as well, and Udogie has actually gone ahead of him, and that's because Henry played wing back in Game Week 1, but in Game Week 2, he played as a regular left back, so he wasn't as attacking in that game. But he did pick up a clean sheet at least, so yeah, there are clean sheets possibilities with Henry. He can play wing backs at times. Thomas Frank has said that he's going to switch up between having 3 at the back with 2 wing backs, or having a regular like 4 at the back defensive structure. So Henry in some games will play as a wing back, and in other games he'll play in the back 4. So yeah, some potential for assists, some potential for clean sheets there, and the fixtures for Brentford means that you should probably have some Brentford players. Jan Vissa as well. I have obviously the 3 strikers filled up. Jan Vissa is really close as well to Nick Jackson and Alvarez. I think if Wissa was a midfielder in this game, I'd have him in the team. But since you can only have 3 forwards, sadly he doesn't make it ahead of Nick Jackson or Alvarez. So yeah. But Henry, defensively, I think Brentford are really good as well, or at least like have good assets. So Henry for 4.5 with his attacking potential and clean sheets is a really good option still. Number 12, we have Robert Sanchez for Chelsea. I think he's going to be the best 4.5 goalkeeper going forward in FPL. Not like as sold on Chelsea defense as most people seem to be, because they conceded 3 goals against West Ham. It was kind of abnormal to concede that on those chances that West Ham got. I can admit, as a West Ham fan as well, kind of lucky. There was a corner goal, really nice corner to be fair, from Ward-Prowse to Aguerd. An Antonio goal, which is kind of not that common nowadays, but a really good goal from Antonio, really nice shot. And then it was the penalty as well, with Caicedo having one of the worst games he has had in his career, or is ever going to have in his career probably, because he's a much better player than what he showed for Chelsea against West Ham. So, but yeah, Sanchez, I think with the fixtures that they have especially, I think he's the best 4.5 option in goal. We don't have enough money to go to someone like Ederson because we have Salah in the team, and quite frankly, I don't think it's that much of a downgrade, because I think Sanchez can get one of those 9-pointers or 10-pointers at certain times with the saves and bonus, whereas Ederson will only get 6 points pretty much every time. So yeah, Sanchez is the preferred goalkeeper for now at least. Then we have the final defender, and that is still Issa Kabore for 4.0. They have pretty good fixtures coming up after this next game week against Chelsea. They have West Ham at home, Fulham away, and Wolves at home. So he has some really good matches and is a really nice backup option in case you need to bench. Maybe Udogie drops out one game. Maybe, I don't know. If you don't have the best defense, Kabore can step in at any time really and play pretty well. He's an offensive-minded player. Obviously, we didn't see anything from Luton in game week 2 because they had the match postponed, but that's also a plus for Kabore because he's going to get a double game week at some point. It's probably going to be later on in the season, but maybe you will get it earlier and you get a double game week for Luton pretty early. So if you have Kabore already, that's a good thing for you. You could go with Malo Gusto, have a different goalkeeper, I guess, the Chelsea fullback Gusto, but Reece James is also coming back pretty soon, most likely after the first international break, but then again, it's Reece James. He's probably going to get injured straight away, so maybe having Gusto in your team permanently is the better option than Kabore. That's kind of why I have Kabore as the 13th pick, because he's not 100% nailed in the team, but he's a decent option for 4.0, I think. And then the final midfielder is Pape Matar Sarr for Spurs. He had a really good game against Man United, scored the opening goal for Spurs, and he was in really good positions as well. So there's a lot to like about Sarr as like your final like 8th attacker that you can have on your bench, stashed on the bench, and have the 8 other strikers or attackers. I mean, play in pretty much every single match. But the only thing with Sarr that makes me a little bit uneasy is the fact that he didn't play in game week 1. So maybe he's not nailed. Maybe he doesn't play most matches for Spurs, but the way he played, like next to Bissouma has been amazing so far, and Pape Sarr was fantastic as well. He's really young. He's like 20 or 21 years old, so I think personally he should start pretty much every game for Spurs, but seeing as he didn't play in game week 1, I'm a little bit unsure about it, but I think he's a nice like makeshift center mid, I guess. You could also potentially, especially before the West Ham game, it looked likely that Enzo Fernandez could be a good pick, but he missed the penalty against West Ham, so he's probably off penalties now, which is another thing in favor of Nick Jackson. Maybe Jackson is on penalties now that Enzo missed his penalty against West Ham. So yeah, but Enzo could have been a nice like 5.0 option if he was still on pens, because he's going to play more offensively with Lavia and Caicedo coming in from the start of every game now. So Enzo Fernandez is also someone you can consider for that low price of 4.5 or 5.0. Well, 5.0 for Enzo, but at that bracket, 5.0, 4.5, Enzo Fernandez is also someone you can consider. But we've used all Chelsea spots there as well with Sanchez, Chilwell, and Nick Jackson. So no room for Carlos Chukwuemeka, who's another 4.5 midfielder if he is healthy, because he had to be subbed off. But yeah, Chelsea have some interesting players. Sterling as well looked really good. So yeah, maybe you don't want to go with 3 Chelsea players just because of that. Maybe you want to stay away from Sanchez for now and just have Chilwell and Nick Jackson and see if someone like Sterling, for example, becomes someone you want to own. So maybe Sanchez isn't the best pick, but for now, I think he's the best goalkeeper to have. But Sarr as well, decent pick for 4.5. I think he's going to start most matches, but the little bit of uncertainty makes me not as secure in the pick of Sarr above like any of the other picks that I have in this wildcard draft, apart from number 15, which is Alphonso Areola. And I've gone back and forth a little bit with Areola or Turner as my backup goalkeeper, but leaning towards Areola because West Ham are on paper at least a better team than Nottingham Forest. But yeah, it's pretty much 50-50 if you want to go with Turner or Areola as your starting or as your backup 4.0 goalkeeper. But yeah, I think Areola is pretty good. But as you can see, there are three green names in the squad, which means there are 3 new players in the squad. That's Foden, Nick Jackson, and Sarr. That means that 3 players have dropped out. So before we leave this episode of the Weekly Wildcard Draft, let's see who have dropped out since last time. And one of them is James Maddison, and that's mostly due to the fact that it seems that he is injured. He was also not as impressive against Man United as he was in the opening match for Spurs against Brentford. So that's why he has dropped out. He, like I said, he had to leave on crutches for Spurs. He's having scans now to see how severe the potential injury is. He's had some injury issues in the past as well. So yeah, just that uncertainty means that I think Foden is a really good replacement for him if you don't have... or if you have Maddison in your squad currently. Moussa Diaby as well drops out a bit to give us the money to get a better attacker instead. I feel like Jackson and Alvarez are better picks than Diaby at the moment, but Diaby is by no means a bad pick still. I think also Aston Villa, they have now finished, they've played their Everton fixtures, so they don't have the best fixtures going forward. So some people are looking to sell potentially Watkins as well as potentially Diaby, but I think if you have Diaby, you should probably keep him. He's 6.5, really cheap. But for this, if you have a wildcard, then this is obviously the squad I would suggest for you. So Diaby, kind of harsh that it drops out. But if you wait until like game 8 or 9, around that time, I think Aston Villa's fixtures pick up quite significantly. And that's when I'm personally looking to get Diaby in my team myself. And then finally we have João Pedro, who drops out because apparently he wasn't as nailed as we thought. And Enciso played really good in his place as well. And Enciso played really well. He was the best player on the pitch, as De Zerbi said himself. And De Zerbi said that he wasn't 100% pleased with how João Pedro was pressing and stuff, and how he tried to win the ball back and stuff. So yeah, maybe Pedro isn't like as nailed as we thought, and that means that we can move on to a different striker. And seeing as we have so many nice forward options in Jackson, Alvarez, and Vissa, those 3 are really good. I feel like it makes sense to drop João Pedro from your team, and that's something I'm looking to do for my own personal team as well. So yeah, that has been the Weekly Wildcard Draft for this week. You'll get another episode of this next week. You get it every single week. I'm going to do a wildcard draft every single game week this season, just to give you like the best, what I think is the best squad to have in Fantasy Premier League for the next 45 game weeks, as I say in the intro. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to see more of this. If you like this type of content, me rambling for a while. I started this, just a quick aside. You can quit the video now if you're not interested in my personal life, I guess. But I was cutting chilies today and my hands were burning, and they were burning at the start of this recording as well. But as I've recorded this and not thought about it, it's actually disappeared a bit. So now finally my hands feel fine after like an hour or 2 of them just burning like crazy. So yeah, that's just a personal little anecdote there for you if you're interested in my personal life, I guess. Anyways, stay tuned for more videos coming up in this week, and I'll see you next time, and goodbye.